All right, so welcome everybody to our WorkWise webinar for this month. We have our special guest is here with us, Dave Niblett, and he's going to go ahead and introduce himself.
Hey everybody, thanks for having me, Lindsay. I was just going to introduce myself really quick. My name is Dave. I've been in this valley since the 70s, so I'm one of the older people that remember the valley when it was smaller. I went to BSU after I dropped out of high school. Found out there was a great difference between high school and college. College is so much better. So if anybody's in that same boat, I promise it gets way, way better. I started working for a company called TCBY Yogurt back in 1986, and that's probably 3 of your lifetimes ago. I know that, but I was counter help, and I got the job because my girlfriend, eventually wife, worked 3 doors down, and that's what I was trying to do. But I ended up liking the job. I liked the guy that was running it. And for frozen yogurt in this valley, TCBY back in the 80s and 90s, we were dominating. We were 7 strong, and I enjoyed managing those stores and doing all the things that you would think a business person would do. A few years into doing that for the owner, I felt like I really should go to college, because I definitely was not the straight out of high school college person. But I got in college, and I had decent grades in high school, but I got into college and just is so different. And I just thrived in that environment. It took me a little bit of time to get my bachelor's degree in business, but I got 2 B's and the rest were A's. My 2 B's were in astronomy and theater, because if they set it up wrong, then you don't go to class, and that's why I got the B's. So it was worth it. But I just want to throw that out there as far as my path to realizing that I was great as far as education goes, to realize that I could do great things in education. I didn't realize that until I was a little bit older. So I've been with TCBY, and then in 2001, my wife and I bought the location in Meridian on Locust Grove, and we've owned that and enjoyed owning that since then. I do a couple other things. I have sorry, Lindsay, I gotta have a hold here because I got a dumpster door that's open and a car is hidden.
Okay, we can pause for a second.
Pause, please.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Awesome. So again, in 2001, we purchased it. We bought it at the right time, had some great sales growth with it, with the growth of Meridian. But I did not want, if this makes sense, I did not want to buy a job. So I didn't invest in this company of frozen yogurt so that I could have a job to work at. And so I kept doing other things and tried to have that business be somewhat self-sufficient. So I'm also, I work in real estate, not very well, but at least I'm in the game. I enjoy actually, there's some property that I get to take care of with my family. And one of the things I really enjoy is taking care of fruit trees, because peaches are awesome when they're perfectly ripe. So that's kind of me in understanding where I'm coming from. Most of my staff is high school age. Predominantly, that's the entry-level job that is applying. There's child labor laws below 16 that prevent me from hiring very many 15-year-olds. They got to be turning 16 quickly. But over the years, I've sat down with thousands of people, and great individuals, nervous as crap, doing the interview with me because I'm a little scary. But over the years, it's been a great experience to try to find people and get to know them and find their strengths. And yeah, I've enjoyed it.
Well, awesome. So thanks for that great introduction. You touched on a lot of information just about your career and what you do, which is great. I love that you shared a little bit about your experience in college. It's not always the best fit for everybody right out of high school. So if you're in that boat, like, don't panic. It's going to be okay. And we're here to help you figure that out and figure out those steps and where you need to go. So as kind of a hiring expert, Dave, can you give us some advice about when you're looking at applications or resumes, what are some of the things that you're looking to see?
Sure. So one of the first things you need to realize is when you go into a location to pick up an application or to find out how you apply to place, people need to realize they're being interviewed right then and there. It doesn't matter if the decision maker is in front of you or not. The people that work there, they want great people to work with, and so you're being evaluated. I think it's great to go and personally stop into a business that you want to work at. I know that a lot of businesses now are online as far as applying, and they may be in situations to where they can hire online. I don't think I'll ever do that because I'm in a business where presentation matters and poise matters, and you can't always see that on paper. But yeah, there have been a lot of people that did not get an interview because they were not prepared when they came in to get the application. And if my staff tells me that they don't think that's the best candidate for the job, then I will probably hold off on interviewing them. However, even in that situation, if someone's persistent and is calling me and bugging me, then I usually will find a time to sit down with them and spend about 15 minutes with them. Presentation as far as clothing and how you're looking, I think professional is still a standard in this world. I know that there are jobs out there where you're going to be working at home, or you're going to be in an environment that's really casual, like a barista, a coffee server. I hate the way they look. I'll just be honest with you. I no offense to any coffee people out there, but it's just too loose. And one of the things that I know is that in food, it does matter whether or not you look like you're not dirty, if you'll take it that way. So the cleaner cut and kind of the cleaner, more precise image is always going to be appealing in food, because that's kind of what customers want to see. From there, I'm looking very little as far as experience. I really don't care if a person has experience. Other people will, but I consider myself a person that trains from ground zero, and I always train from ground zero, regardless of the experience that a person's had. Just because I'm a little specific in how I want to do things with this business. I think there is a recipe for success, and I'm going to train people to make sure that they are following that culture, and kind of meeting the bar that's set as far as great service. But
sure,
in an interview, people are always nervous. I think it's great just to say, I'm sorry, I'm really nervous. I think that's a great opener, just to let people know this is stressing me out. I didn't sleep last night. Those things are great. Those are okay.
Yeah, that's great. So presentation matters from the very beginning is what we're hearing, that it's not just about when you come in for the interview, but when you're starting that process of looking for a position or looking for a job, that presentation still matters. So
and clean up your social media accounts before you start applying, because if you don't think we're not looking at your social media accounts, Or totally looking at that, totally seeing what's going on.
Okay, good to know. It's also really nice to hear that you aren't necessarily looking for a lot of experience. I know a lot of our teens, as they're getting ready to apply, this will be their first job. We have a handful of teens that aren't even quite at that point yet, but are starting to prepare for those things. So if someone comes in without a lot of experience, they don't have any perhaps, what kinds of things could they do to make themselves a better candidate for that position?
So that's a great question. And, you know, I feel kind of bad for people because these are really, I think these are great secrets to interviewing for entry-level jobs. And that is experience doesn't matter as much as knowing the business that you're applying for. So when someone comes into my business, I want them to be able to call my business correctly by its name. I want them to kind of understand how busy we are. I want them to have maybe watched our counter a little bit to see what kind of flow we have. Most of the people that I hire, when I ask them why TCBY, they tell me we've always come here and the service has always been great. And that's the kind of person I'm looking for, is someone that knows my business, knows what I serve, knows the level of performance I give, and feels that they can match that. So the more you can understand what it is you can bring, experience I don't think matters. You know, as far as what you can bring to most jobs, just tell them you have a great work ethic. I mean, you probably do, you just don't realize it. Maybe you realize it. Tell them you'll work hard, tell them you'll be loyal. Those things still matter in business, regardless of where you're working. We are still looking for people that have honor and that we can trust, because the best way to run things is to let you be free. I don't want to control anybody. I don't want to manage anybody. I want them to be on their own. And that comes with a lot of trust.
Yeah, I think those tips apply to anywhere you might be applying. So whether it's TCBY or the grocery store or anywhere else you're looking for a job, just like know what position you're applying for, get the names right, know who you're talking to. That goes a long way when you go in for an interview. So
I think so.
Next question I have just is regarding references. This is a section on applications and resumes that I get a lot of questions about. So do references really matter? Do you call those people? How do references help in that job search?
Sure. You know, if I can lump together, for me, references and job experience are one and the same. And unfortunately for people, if they've had experience and it wasn't a good experience, I'm going to be all into that. If they've had a job, I want to know exactly how it ended, and I want to know why it ended, and I want the details. I want to know if they gave a 2-week notice, because I think that matters. It shows a professionalism that not everybody has. And there's a lot of people that quit their jobs just by not showing up one day, which I think.
Oh, we lost your sound. Dave?
I look at the references because sometimes there's things that I can learn from that. When you put down references, if you are trying to provide a view of you that is someone that matters, then it's good to put kind of who they are. Who are they in your life? And, you know, not everybody will do this. So just list a name and a number. But if you can describe to me that you have an administration person at your school that absolutely loves you to death and would give you a great recommendation, describe that individual as your principal or your, you know, someone like that. If there's someone that you've worked for that would give that great recommendation, give a little hint as to where they're coming from, who they are in your life. I see a lot of babysitting references, and you know, that's an okay reference, and it is a responsibility that people have. Yeah, I mean, I would list it. I would make sure that it's prominent enough So mowing lawns, if that's what you want to show it, but make sure it's a prominent part of your life. And that's where you need to realize that you're not lying by saying, you know, I had a business that I was mowing lawns. You did. You may not have officially had a business plan, but it was something you did for money. That's a business. If you babysat regularly, sometimes people will call that a nanny. So you can look at ways to kind of strengthen your references and also your job references.
Yeah, awesome.
Right?
Yeah. And just so all of you teens know, your club staff are always willing to be put down as references. We love to talk about you guys and say positive things. So if you're looking for references, check with the club staff.
Good.
All right, so without sharing any kind of personal or identifying details, what was the worst interview you ever conducted?
You know, I know I saw that question. I should have been thinking about it. Right off the top of my head, I think if a person, sorry.
It's okay.
I think if a person is willing to sit down with me and be really nervous and endure that uncomfortableness, I don't have anything bad to say about them. Some of them are not going to be the right fit for my business. You know, I once had a young lady, I was asking her kind of to try to find out more about her life. And I was saying, well, what do you do for hobbies? And what do you do to spend time since, you know, you've got this free time, it looks like. And she said, well, my cat is old and every day it goes and pukes somewhere in the house and I have to go and find the puke and clean it up every day. I thought that was an interesting answer for an interview question. But really, you know, even the people that are not ready or not the right fit for what I'm looking for, you got to respect the fact that they're in front of you and that they're willing to try. That's means more than anything that would be odd that they would say or any wrong answer. I can look past quite a bit as people work through their nervousness, try to answer my hard questions because I'm a little tricky that way. I want to see the true you if you're sitting in front of me.
All right. Good to know. And then just my last question for you before we open it up for the teens to ask some questions is just besides the obvious plus of having a paycheck, what would you say are some of the benefits to a person choosing to work either in the summer or after school, but choosing to work in their teen years?
So I am amazed at how many people will call and ask about someone that worked for me 15 years ago. And I'm like, they're 30 something now. Why do you want to know what happened 15 years ago? There are people that do. It's either military clearance, it's buying a home. When they get to credit, they want to know. And so having an experience at a job, even if it's 15 years later, could be helping you even when you're 16, 17 years old. You'd be amazed. That's why I think it's really important to not burn a bridge on your way out. If you don't have a right fit at a job, have the poise and have the professionalism to give a proper 2-week notice and in the job in a way that that is to be expected. It'll probably be the only thing they remember about you is that you gave a 2-week notice, you signed it, you dated it, you wrote it down, you said how much you loved the experience, blah, blah, blah. I mean, to keep it real, that's what people remember. And so they can give you great references that way. In my particular business, I expect everybody to be able to interact with adults. And I think that, you know, I don't know everything about all the experiences that you guys are having, but I know Lindsay as an individual, and I know that she works really hard to get you guys to realize it's not us and them, it's just kind of us. and you have a great impact in my life. You know, I'm 50 plus now, and when I can bring someone who really doesn't have the, they don't have this, the gift of talking comfortably, they have a hard time thinking and talking at the same time. If I can bring that person to a point to where they have confidence, to me, there's no amount of money that would equal your confidence to walk into a group and be able to hold your own in a conversation. I could give you an experience in my business. I give people an experience to where they practice, and you would think practice this little rote speech. No, I don't want to hear anything the same ever. My training is set up to where I say, I need you to be unique. I need you to stand out a little bit. I need you to fumble with your words. I need you to feel awkward, because for my customer, they love that. They love a young person who doesn't have a whole bunch of experience, and you can tell they're trying. That's really where it's at, is they're not perfect, but that even makes it better, to where, because they're not perfect, it's harder to pull off. And when you put your effort towards that, that is a huge thing. And to be able to come out the other side with some confidence is definitely a big thing. Anything working with retail, you're going to come out hopefully a lot more confident than when you go in.
Wonderful. And you know, we know that most young people, most teenagers, their first jobs will be in a retail or a food service kind of environment. So whether it's TCBY or somewhere else, you're going to have some of the similar opportunities to build some of those skills. So awesome. All right, we'll go ahead and open it up. So teens centers, you can go ahead and turn on your camera and your mic, and we'll do some Q&A. So any teens that have any questions for either me or for Dave can go ahead and ask those now.
Remember, you're interviewing right now.
Yeah, so just a quick reminder, you do have to get close to the camera and the microphone for us to hear you, but.
I'm just curious, how young do you have to, or how old do you have to be to work there?
So I've got a 15-year-old and a 14-year-old working for me right now. I don't have anybody else that young. Here's the problem. Child labor laws to follow. And right now, while school's in session, you guys can't work past 7 if you're 15 or younger. If you're 16, we could work you 24 hours a day, pay you overtime. I mean, it's kind of ridiculous, because from 15 to 16, there's no restrictions whatsoever. But yeah, I'm looking for 16 and up. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
I think Zach's got one for us.
Awesome.
One more time.
How old were you when you got your first job?
Oh, me? Crap. You know, I was cutting wood with a chainsaw and splitting wood when I was 10. I had a paper out when I was 6. It's stupid. Enjoy your youth a little more than that.
I started babysitting when I was 12. I was babysitting.
That's a good age.
A lot. I know a lot of people, especially for babysitters now, are looking for someone a little bit older, but if you can start when you're, you know, younger in some of those things, mowing lawns, babysitting, some of that kind of stuff where you're not like officially on a payroll, you can start that a little bit younger.
Yeah, I think so.
Did anybody else have any questions for Dave?
They're all 15.
We do have a number of them are a little bit too young to start working now, but they're preparing for it. So
if you're 15, go ahead.
Yeah, I think Darby here's got one. If we can't hear him, I'll type it in the chat, but we'll see.
Go ahead, Darbs.
So where should I start after I'm done with high school?
He's just asking kind of some tips and maybe some pointers on like where he should start after high school. Looking for jobs or college?
College.
So like college and jobs kind of thing. Yeah, so kind of with college, jobs, kind of trying to do both.
You know, it's a great question, and that gets personal with what I did with my education. I have 3 kids, and they've all graduated high school. And you know, you're asking me what have I told my kids after high school? There's no right answer to that. I think in today's world, there is training and education for every single person, because especially in this job market right now, there's a lot of places that would love to hire you and have you be part of their team and have you stay for years and that kind of thing. I do think whatever education you are willing to put forth, your time, your energy, and your money, it will pay dividends. It still is a society. Sorry. It's still a system in our country to where education will always, it's almost predictable, match what you're going to make in a career. So I think that a lot of people undershoot for what they're able to do. And until you know you can't do it, and you've tried and failed and tried again and failed and tried again, and it's starting to be ridiculous, I would shoot high. I really would, because there's great opportunity for financing your education, and there's just no reason not to do it, especially if I promise you high school and college are way different. If you hate high school, you're gonna love college.
I agree. Having done both, high school and college are very different. I also want to toss out there that, you know, education and training don't always come in a traditional college setting, that there are a lot of opportunities outside of that as well, depending on kind of what career path you're looking for. So I am more than willing to sit down and chat about some of those opportunities and help you find the right fit. All right, we've got a few more minutes here. If anybody else has any questions, I'm going to make sure we have time to get those in.
So what kind of prize you want from TCBY? You want like 3 or 5 or what?
Ooh, I don't know. I hadn't thought about it.
What kind of odds are we looking at for a raffle?
It depends. They get entries for all sorts of different things. So the odds will be dependent on their participation.
I will get you some. I'll get you some gift cards.
Fantastic.
All right, I think Aji has a question here.
The best way to introduce yourself?
Kind of like, yeah, so like best way to introduce yourself, like in an interview. Some tips on that.
Yep. That's a really good question, because, you know, we talked about the pre-interview and making sure that you realize you're being evaluated then, but then there's the actual sit down. Introducing yourself starts from what time you got there to your confidence going up to someone and saying, I'm here for an interview. So introducing yourself encapsulates how confident are you, and that's a first read as to whether or not you're confident enough to take a chair if someone doesn't say you can sit down, are you confident enough to have a chat with someone as a receptionist or a frontline person? Introducing yourself, it's all over the place. It's a really good question because those first impressions, however they come, they are registering, and a person is reacting and responding to whether they're going to make a decision that you want. If your question is, how do you introduce yourself in COVID? That's a, yeah.
It's a different question, right?
That's a whole different question.
Olivia's got one. She's heading up right now.
What's your favorite thing to hear about?
Oh, we can't hear you. You got to get a little closer.
What's your favorite thing to hear about?
Like workers that have worked for them already.
Yeah, like that.
So kind of what she's asking is like workers who have worked for you before and have moved on, like what's the most rewarding thing to hear about your workers from the past that have moved on?
Yeah, it's a great question too. So anytime someone's going to leave my workplace, I want to know why. Because if I've done something wrong or if they're not enjoying their time, I need to fix that. But most of the time, people are leaving for better opportunities. I think that those opportunities, you'd be surprised. There's what's called cherry pickers out there. And they go around to businesses, they're really looking for staff, and they'll cherry pick off of other people's staff. It's not cool, but it happens. As far as opportunities, you know, with my business, what's very rewarding is if I can create an environment that's flexible enough to where they go from high school, and if they're going to continue education here, that I can continue with them and make available what they need. I've had staff go from being a sophomore in high school to graduating BSU. You know, wasn't supposed to work during the teacher training. What's that called? Anyway, the last semester for teachers, they have to do the on-the-job thing. She wasn't supposed to be working, but she stayed working clear through the graduation until she got her teaching job. I think seeing someone enter a career like that is it's very cool. I'm always, you know, split. I like to keep people as long as I can, but man, when they got a great opportunity and they're ready for it and there's more money around the corner, I make sure that they're not making a mistake. You know, I'm like, let's just keep you on the schedule for a little bit while you try it out. But yeah, it feels good to have people be successful. There's no doubt about it. If I didn't feel that genuinely, I don't think I'd be able to do my job very good. I need to care enough about individuals to where when they do find that great opportunity, I need to be happy for them.
Sounds like you're really invested in the lives and the futures of your employees. Do they ever come back and check in and let you know how they're doing?
So today I worked the counter and Julie. So her name's Julie. I don't remember her last name, but it was literally, okay, so here's a cup. I don't know if you can see it, but we're celebrating 40 years. Yes, I'm branding, and yes, I'm advertising. What do you expect? See, 40 years of TCBY. Julie came through the drive-through, and I'm like, I know you. She goes, yeah. And then, you know, everybody wants me to guess their name, kind of like your old teachers and stuff. She didn't ever look like a Julie to me, but when she told me who she was, that she was a cake decorator, we're talking about 25 years ago, that she's bringing her daughter now to TCBY. I still can recognize her. Because I've been doing it for so long, you'd be shocked. I mean, I am always shocked at people that come back and reacquaint just briefly. It's great to check up on them and see how they're doing, see how their life's turned out. And yeah, it's extremely rewarding.
Fantastic.
I've got a lot of friends.
Good. All right, teens, I think we have time for one more question before we wrap this up, if anybody else has one.
You can ask me.
Where's your business at?
So we are located on Fairview and Locust Grove. So depending on where you're at, we're in Meridian, and there's a Fred Meyer that sits in a parking lot right at the corner of Locust Grove and Fairview. And we are one of the satellite buildings in that parking lot. We're one of 5 in a little strip mall. It was built in '95, and we got a drive-through, so it's killer.
All right, so we're going to wrap up the questions with that. And just to sign off here, do you have any general advice for our group before we get going?
The world is your opportunity to seize. I mean, there's never been a greater opportunity that I've seen to where you get to go do what you want. So don't undershoot, and don't let anybody tell you you can't. You're going to be surprised what you can do.
That's fantastic advice. Thank you. And thank you again for being here with us today, and teens for tuning in. This was a great chat. So we appreciate you being here and sharing your time with us.
My pleasure, Lindsay. Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Bye.